The planet smelled like old fire. Sarah Nalvin had been on dead worlds before. She had walked through collapsed cities and empty forests and places where entire species had simply stopped existing. But Draith Prime felt different. It felt like a place that still remembered being alive. She was alone out here. That was her choice. Dale had offered to come with her, but she had told him to stay with the ship. This kind of work, the slow, careful work of cataloging what was lost, she did better alone. Her boots crushed ash with every step. The sky above was a flat gray, heavy with old dust that never quite settled. The survey scanner in her hand beeped softly every few seconds, recording bone structures, collapsed nest walls, the faint chemical traces of species that had been gone for 30 years. She was not here to find anything. She was here to document. That was what she told herself. The Draith had been massive creatures. Four-winged, scaled, deeply intelligent. The galaxy had called them dangerous. The war had been short and Completelion-sided. The Galactic Authority had decided that a species capable off-bonding with other beings at a neurological level was too unpredictable to coexist with. Too much of a security risk. So they had been removed. That was the word the official records used. Removed. Sarah had grown up in a mining colony on a tidally locked moon, where words like that were also used. When workers died in a shaft collapse, they were removed from the roster. When children had no family left, they were removed to the common housing block. She knew exactly what removed meant. She knelt beside a half-buried nest structure and began brushing debris away with her gloved hand. The bones here were large. An adult. The way they were curled suggested the creature had died, trying to cover something. Her scanner beeped differently. She looked at the reading. A heat signature. Faint. Very faint. But there, coming from below the bone structure, deep down, maybe 4 meters under ash and compacted earth, Sarah sat still for a moment. Then she started digging. She did not have proper excavation equipment. She used her hands and a short field tool from her belt kit. Dale called her twice. She told him she was fine and that she needed more time. He asked what she had found. She told him she was not sure yet and that she would tell him when she knew. It took her 2 hours. The deeper she dug, the warmer the ground became. Not dangerously warm, just warm in the way a living thing is warm. At 3 meters, she hit something hard and smooth, and she stopped moving and just stared at IT. IT was round. Enormous. The size of a large cargo drum, maybe bigger. The surface was dark, almost black, but when her work light hit it at the right angle, there was color inside. A deep gold, moving slowly like something breathing. Her scanner confirmed it in 3 separate readings before she trusted it. Biological. Active. Viable. A Draith egg. Alive. Sarah sat at the bottom of her rough hole in the ash of a dead world and looked at the last living thing of an entire species. The adult bones above her suddenly made complete sense. Someone had stayed. Someone had curled around this spot and stayed until they could not stay anymore. She put her hand on the shell. It was warm, smooth in a way that made her think of river stones. She thought about leaving it, about radioing the authority and following protocol, about all the correct and sensible things a field researcher was supposed to do when she found something like this. Then she thought about what would happen to it if she did that. Removed, she pulled the thermal blanket from her pack. It was meant for emergency survival use. It was rated for -40 degrees. She wrapped the egg in Ida as carefully as she could, working her arms underneath it, feeling the weight shift when she lifted IT. IT was heavy. She was not a large person. She carried it anyway. Dale met her at the ship ramp. He saw the thermal blanket. He saw the shape off what was inside it. His mouth opened and no words came out for a long moment. Then he said, "Sarah, what did you find?" She walked past him up the ramp and said, "Help me build a warm space in the cargo bay. I'll explain while we work." He followed her. He always did, in the end. She set the egg down in the center of the cargo bay floor on a folded emergency mat and peeled back a corner of the thermal blanket. The gold light inside the shell pulsed once, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. Dale stared at it for a very long time. "Is that?" he started. "Yes," Sarah said. "The last one, as far as anyone knows." He looked at her. "You know what the authority will do when they find out?" "Yes," she said again. And you brought it anyway. She was already looking around the cargo bay for heat lamps and insulation panels. Help me set up the incubation area. We have a lot of work to do before anyone finds out anything. Dale exhaled slowly. Then he picked up an insulation panel and started unfolding it. The egg pulsed gold again in the dim light of the cargo bay. Outside, the ash plains of Draith Prime stretched on in silence. And somewhere in the cold ruins, the hollow shape of old bones held the outline of a creature it had stayed until it could not stay anymore. Sarah understood that feeling completely. The egg did not hatch that night. It did not hatch the next day either. Sarah sat beside it through both, checking temperature readings every hour, adjusting the heat lamps when the numbers dipped, eating her ration packs without tasting them. Dale brought her water and did not tell her she was being excessive because he could see in her face that she already knew and did not care. On the second night, she started talking to it. She was not sure why. It felt strange at first, and then it did not. She told the egg what she knew about the Draith. She had spent years studying them from records, from the few biological samples that existed, from the accounts of species that had encountered them before the war. She had never expected to be this close to one. She told it that the Draith were not what the official record said they were, that they had been highly social, that they raised their young in deep communal nests, with multiple adults contributing to the care of each hatchling, that they had been known to form bonds with non-Draith beings in rare cases, bonds that were neurological and permanent, bonds so complete that the Draith could feel the emotional state of the other being across long distances. She told it that the galaxy had decided that ability made them dangerous. She paused and looked at the slow gold pulse moving through the shell. They were wrong, she said. I want you to know that before you open your AS. Whatever they said about your kind, they were wrong. Dale appeared in the cargo bay doorway. He held 2 cups of something warm. He had been listening. She could tell by the look on his face. He crossed the bay and sat down beside her and handed her a cup. He did not say anything for a while. Then he said, "The authority beacon pinged us 40 minutes ago." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. Passive scan or active query? Active. They logged our position over Draith Prime, and they want to report on what we found. What did you send? Routine survey data. Geological samples. Atmospheric readings. He paused. I left out the part where my colleague dug a living egg out of the ground with her bare hands. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. He looked at the egg. They will send someone to check. They always do when a survey ship sits too long over a restricted zone. We have maybe 3 days before an authority vessel reaches this region. Sera no dead slowly. She was already calculating. The egg moved. Both of them went completely still. The gold pulse inside the shell had changed rhythm. It was faster now, uneven, almost urgent. A sound came from inside. A low tapping, then a harder knock, then a sound like something pressing against the inside of a wall it had grown too large for. Sarah set her cup down and moved closer on her knees. The shell cracked. Not explosively, not dramatically. It was a single clean line, running from somewhere near the top all the way down one side, and then the 2 halves pressed outward slowly, the way a hand opens when it has been holding something too tightly for too long. Inside the egg, covered in clear fluid and breathing in rapid shallow bursts, was a creature the size of a large dog. It was dark-scaled, almost black, with 4 wings folded tightly against its back. Its claws were small and sharp and curled against the broken shell. Its eyes were closed. Then they opened. They were gold. Fully, completely gold, the same color as the pulse that had been moving through the shell for 2 days. They were large and clear, and they looked around the cargo bay in small, careful movements, taking in the ceiling, the heat lamps, the walls. Then they found Sarah. The hatchling looked at her for a long moment without moving. Something in its expression was not what Sarah had expected from a newborn creature. It was not fear. It was not aggression. It was something quieter than both of those things. Sarah did not move either. Slowly, the scales along the hatchling's neck and chest shifted color. The dark black warming, deepening, becoming the same soft amber gold as its eyes. That Garo's notes came back to her from somewhere in her memory. Color shifts in newly hatched Wraith correspond to emotional state. Amber gold at first contact means recognition of safety. It is the color a hatchling shows when it is with family. Her throat tightened. "Hello," she said, very quietly. The hatchling blinked. Dale exhaled beside her, a long, unsteady sound. "What do we call it?" Hugh whispered. Sarah thought about it. She looked at the small creature covered in shell fluid, blinking its gold eyes in the warm light, with nowhere in the entire galaxy to go except forward. "Rook," she said. Dale turned to look at her. "It's a piece that can only move forward," she said. "And it protects." The hatchling, Rook, made a sound. It was low and soft and resonant, more felt in the chest than heard with the ears. Sarah did not know yet what all his sounds meant. She would learn. She was going to have to learn a great many things very quickly, because somewhere out in the dark between the stars, an authority vessel had already changed course. Rook ate 3 portions of high-protein field ration within his first 6 hours and then fell asleep pressed against Sarah's leg. She did not move for 2 hours because she did not want to wake him. Dale watched this from across the cargo bay with an expression that was somewhere between fondness and terror. "You realize," he said quietly, "that you are sitting on the floor of a survey ship with the last Draith in the galaxy asleep on your boot." "I know, and the authority is going to want him." "I know that too." "So, Dale." She looked up at him. "I know exactly what I am doing. I knew the moment I picked up that egg. Do not try to talk me out of it now." He was quiet for a moment. Then he sat down on the floor across from her, back against the cargo crate, and folded his arms. "I'm not trying to talk you out of it," he said. "I'm trying to figure out how to help you keep him." She looked at him for a moment. Then she nodded. "We jumped to Corva 9. It's on neutral relay station. The authority cannot board or seize without a council order, and those take time to process. That gives us a window, and when the window closes, we find another window." Rook shifted in his sleep and made the low, resonant sound. His scales were a calm, steady amber. Sarah rested her hand lightly on his side and felt the warmth of him, the steady rise and fall of breathing, and thought about the bones she had found on Draith Prime and the shape of what they meant. They jumped before the authority vessel came within visual range. Corvin 9 was a busy station, which was exactly why Sarah had chosen it. Busy stations were full of different species, different factions, different laws pressing against each other. It made enforcement complicated. She liked complicated. Complicated bought time. She kept Rook in a large carry case with ventilation panels and a thermal lining. He did not like it. She could feel him communicating this to her in a way she could not fully explain, a pressure behind her eyes that was not pain, but was definitely displeasure. Just for a little while, she told the case, a rumbling sound came from inside it. Dale raised an eyebrow. "He understands more than he should for something 6 hours old," Sarah said. They found the person they were looking for in the lower levels of Corva 9, in a cramped storage room that had been converted into something between a workshop and a living space. He was old. Old for any species, but old in a particular way that comes from loss, a heaviness that settled in the eyes and never fully left. His name was Garo. He was Lisari by species, thin-limbed and slow-moving, with pale gray skin and large dark eyes. He had been the last registered Draith keeper before the war. Sarah had found his name buried in archive records 6 years ago and had been corresponding with him since. When she set the carry case down and opened the panel, Garo looked Insidit Rook and did not speak for almost a full minute. Then he made a sound that was not quite a word in any language. Sarah knew it was grief and relief at the same time. She recognized it because she had made similar sounds herself, in private, on dark nights in the mining colony when she was young. Rook looked at Garo with his gold eyes. Then he stepped out of the case, crossed the floor carefully, and pressed his head against Garo's knee. Garo placed one long-fingered hand on Rook's neck. "I thought they were all gone," he said finally. His voice was very quiet. "He is the last," Sarah said. "I need to know how to keep him alive, and I need to know everything that was kept out of the official records." So Garo talked, he talked for hours, about Draith biology, their feeding habits, the resonance communication they used, the color language of their scales. He talked about the bonding, what it truly meant, how it was not a weakness but a choice, a deep and permanent choice that a Draith made consciously, usually within the first days of life, that he told her that Rook had already made that choice. The amber gold when he first saw you, Garo said. That was not just comfort-seeking. That was recognition. He looked at you, and something in his biology said this one. That is not reversible. Not for him. Sarah absorbed this. What does that mean for him? Long term, it means you are his world, Garo said simply. It means whoever has you, has him. And whoever threatens you will learn what a Draith can dow in, something it loves, is in danger. Rook was sitting between them now, watching Garo speak as if he understood every word. His scales shifted slowly, dark and light, working through something complex. Dale came to the doorway, and the look on his face stopped all conversation. The Authority just docked, he said. Admiral Strack is on the station, that he has 12 soldiers with him, and he is asking questions at the main desk. Garo looked at Sarah. How much time do we have? Sarah was already picking up Rook. He curled against her chest, wings folding flat, scales shifting to a deep and steady gold. Not enough, she said. So let's move. The maintenance level of Corvin, 9 smelled like coolant fluid and old metal. Sarah sat with her back against a coolant pipe. Rook curled at her lap, listening to the sound of boots on the floor above them. Dale was near the access ladder, head tilted, counting footstep patterns. Garo sat across from her, breathing carefully, conserving energy the way old beings learned to do. Rook had grown again. She could see it. In the hours since they had arrived on the station, he had added centimeters in leg length. His wings had spread further, and the bones of his face were shifting into sharper angles. Draith growth in the first weeks was fast. Garo had warned her about that a hatchling would double in size before its first month was done. Right now, though, he was still small enough to fit in her lap, and he was doing exactly that, and his scales were cycling through colors she was starting to learn. The slow amber meant comfort. The deep gold meant trust. The dark blue-green that was moving through his sides right now was something Garo had not named for her yet. What is that color? She asked quietly. Not looking up, Garo glanced over. Attentiveness, he said. He is listening to everything, processing it. He paused. He is worried about you. Sarah looked down at Rook. The dark eyes looked back at her. She thought about what Garo had said. That Rook had made his choice. That she was his world now. She thought about what that meant for him. This small creature who had opened his eyes in the hold of a survey ship with no family, no nest, no others of his kind anywhere in the galaxy. The loneliness of that hit her harder than she expected. She had grown up in a mining colony on a moon with no proper name, just a survey designation. Her parents had died in a hull breach when she was 4. That the colony administration had put her in the common housing block. They had fed her and kept her warm, and that was the full extent of what they had offered. She had learned very early that no one was coming to claim her. She had learned to ask for very little and to keep moving and to not need things too openly, because needing things openly was how you got hurt. She had been doing that ever since. She looked at Rook. You know, she said softly, not caring that Dale and Garo could hear her. I was one too, an orphan. I know what it feels like to wake up and have nobody. She paused. It's very quiet, in a bad way. Rook pressed his head more firmly against her chest. But you have me now, she said. I know that's not what you were supposed to have. I know you were supposed to have a whole nest, and adults who knew everything about what you were. I'm sorry that I'm just one person who is mostly figuring it out as I go. His scales had stopped cycling. They had settled into the deep, steady gold. Garo spoke from across the room, his voice low and careful. That is the color I mentioned. Complete trust. He stopped. Then he said, in all my years as a keeper, I only saw that color twice. It takes most Draith weeks to reach it. Sarah realized her hand was resting on Rook's back. She had not consciously put it there. Dale turned from the ladder. His expression was carefully neutral in the way it got, when he was trying not to show that he was moved by something. I filed the petition, he said. Emergency classification under the Draith Preservation Accord. It was never formally repealed when the war ended. I found it in a legal archive 3 years old. I filed it 6 minutes ago. Sarah looked at him. You've been planning this. I have been hoping I would never need to, he said honestly. But I researched it anyway. Because you have been talking about Draith Prime for 2 years, and I know how you look at something you are about to chase. She opened her mouth. The petition was accepted, he continued. A council representative is being notified. But Sarah, it will take time. And Strack is on the station now, and he is not going to wait for paperwork. As if to confirm that, footsteps stopped directly above them. Then the access hatch at the top of the ladder moved. Rook lifted his head. His scales shifted instantly to something Sarah had not seen before. Not amber, not blue, something between black and deep red, moving fast, like fire seen through dark glass. Garo said one word very quietly. Protective. The hatch opened. A soldier looked down with a light beam. Sarah rose to her feet, Rook against her chest, both arms around him. She looked directly up into the light. Her face was calm. She had spent her whole life being calm when she was terrified because in the mining colony calm was the only thing that ever helped. The soldier did not move for a moment. Then a voice from above said, "Step aside. Let me see." And Admiral Strack looked down. Strack came down the ladder himself. That was the first thing Sarah noted. He did not send his soldiers first. He came down himself, which told her he was not afraid, and that he believed this would be simple. He was large for a Theric, which meant he was large by most standards. Heavy through the shoulders, broad-faced, with the kind of stillness that comes from decades of giving orders in rooms where the orders were always followed, he looked at Sarah. He looked at the creature she was holding. He looked at Garo. He looked at Dale. Then he looked back at Sarah and said, "Set it down and step away." "No," Sarah said. Strack did not react visibly to that. "You are a field researcher with the Galactic Survey Corps. You have no legal standing to claim possession of a biological entity recovered from a restricted zone. This is not a debate. Set it down and step away." "His name is Rook," Sarah said. And I said no. 3 soldiers came down the ladder behind Strack. More footsteps above suggested there were others at the hatch. Rook had not moved. He was still against Sarah's chest, watching Strack with gold eyes that did not blink. His scales were deep and dark, that red-black fire color, but he was completely still. He was not threatening. He was just present. Fully, completely present. Strack looked at him for a moment. Something shifted in his face, something brief that might have been recognition or might have been memory, and the knit was gone. "I do not want to use force," he said, and Sarah believed him. That was the unsettling part. He was not enjoying this. He genuinely believed he was doing the correct thing. This creature is the last of a species that nearly caused a galactic-level bonding event 2 generations ago. The risk it represents cannot be assessed without study under authority conditions. "Authority conditions," Garo said from the corner. His voice was thin but steady. "I know what authority conditions looked like for Draith. I was there when those conditions were applied to an entire species." Strack looked at him. "You're Garo, the old keeper." "I am. Your records are flagged." He turned back to Sarah. "I'm offering you a chance to do this without any consequences to yourself or your colleague. The creature comes with me. You go home. That is a fair outcome." Rook unfolded his wings, not a fly, not to attack. He simply opened them, both pairs, spreading them wide so that his full size became visible in the dim maintenance room light. It was not a large wingspan yet. He was still young and still growing, but something about the way he did it was not small. It was the same why a very calm person can fill a room simply by deciding to stand their ground. He stepped down from Sarah's arms. She let him. Her heart was hammering, but she let him because she understood what he was doing and she trusted him. Rook stood on the floor between Sarah and Strack. He looked up at the Admiral. His scales moved slowly through their colors and then stopped on a single shade. Deep, steady gold. The same color he wore for family, that he was not threatening Strack. He was showing him something. Strack looked at those gold scales for a long moment. He looked at the way Rook had placed himself, not crouched to attack, not spread to flee, just standing, just being exactly what he was between the person he had chosen and the person who wanted to take her from him, or take him from her. The direction didn't matter. The position was the same. Sarah stepped forward. She stood beside Rook. Her shoulder was level with the top of his folded wings. "You said it yourself," she told Strack. "The Draith nearly caused a galactic-level bonding event because of how completely they connected with other beings. You were looking at the last one. He is 3 days old. He has already made his choice, and it is not reversible. If you take him, you do not get a weapon. You get a creature in permanent grief with no reason left to cooperate with anyone. She paused. I know what that looks like. I felt something like it myself. You will not get what you want from him. The room was very quiet. Then from above, through the open hatch, a new voice spoke. Clear, precise, with the particular cadence of someone who spoke in formal chambers for a living. Admiral Strack, I am Counselor Iris S. of the Galactic Council. I am formally invoking Article 9 of the Draith Preservation Accord, which has never been repealed and which carries full protected species status for any surviving Draith biological entity. This station is a neutral zone. You have no legal authority to proceed. Strack's jaw tightened. He did not move for a long moment. Then he said, very quietly, "This is not over." "No," Sarah said. "It is not, but it is over here. Today." He looked at Rook one more time. Rook looked back at him with those gold eyes, patient and steady and very, very old, looking for something 3 days born. Then Strack turned and went back up the ladder. Sarah exhaled. Rook pressed against her leg. His scales had gone fully amber. The Lisari sanctuary was built into the curve of an asteroid, and every surface inside, it was smooth, pale stone. It was quiet in the way that places built for important conversations are quiet, a deliberate stillness. Every echo absorbed before it could build into noise. Sarah had been in a lot of difficult rooms in her life. This was the largest. The council chamber held 42 members representing 31 species. Some of them she recognized from records. Most she did not. They all looked at Rook when he walked in, and the chamber, which had been full of low conversation, went silent. He was larger now. A week of growth had made him nearly waist-high at the shoulder. His wings were folded close. His scales were the calm amber that Sarah had come to think of as his resting state. The color he wore when he felt safe and had nothing to prove. He walked to the front of the chamber beside Sarah and sat down. Not behind her, beside her. He looked at the assembled council the way she had once seen a very old researcher look at a room full of students. Patient, watchful, not particularly impressed, but not unkind. Admiral Strack presented his case first. He was measured. He cited historical records, the bonding incidents, the risk assessments from 2 generations ago. He spoke about galactic stability and the responsibility of the authority to prevent emergent biological threats. He did not raise his voice once. He was the most reasonable-sounding version of a wrong argument that Sarah had ever heard. Then Sarah spoke. She did not use prepared notes. She had written some, but when she stood up and looked at the chamber, she put them away. She talked about Draith Prime, about the ash, about the bones of an adult curled over a buried nest, about what it meant that one creature had stayed until it could not stay anymore, protecting something that might never hatch, might never matter, might never be found. She talked about Rook, about the first color his scales had shown, about a 3-day-old creature standing between her and armed soldiers with his wings open and his scales gold. Not threatening, just present, just refusing to move. She talked about the Draith Preservation Accord, about the fact that it had never been repealed because no one had believed there was anything left to preserve. She said that the galaxy had made a decision 30 years ago and called it safety and built records around it that made it sound clean, and that the thing sitting beside her in this chamber was what that decision had almost permanently erased. Then Garo spoke, that he had to sit while he spoke. But his voice was steady. He talked about 30 years of keeping records no one wanted, about the Draith he had known, their names in his own system because official records never used them, their personalities, what they had been like before the war. He named 12 of them. The chamber was very quiet by the time he finished. Then Iris S. called the vote that IT was not close. 29 in favor, 8 against, 5 abstentions. Rook received full protected species status. Sarah was formally named his guardian and primary researcher under a new designation that Ira had spent 3 days quietly constructing. It gave her and Dale legal authority to study Draith biology and history without authority oversight. Strack accepted the ruling. His face gave nothing away. As he passed Sarah on the way out of the chamber, he stopped for just a moment. You understand, he said quietly, that this changes nothing in the long run. He is still one. He is still the last. I know, Sarah said. He looked at Rook. Rook looked back. Take care of him, Strax said. Then he left. The chamber emptied slowly. Garo was taken to a rest room by a sanctuary aide. Dale found Sarah near the back and put his arm briefly around her shoulders and said nothing, which was exactly right. That night, Sarah stood on the sanctuary's open landing platform. The sky above the asteroid was full of stars, no atmosphere to blur them, each one sharp and precise and impossibly far away. She stood at the railing and looked out and tried to feel the size of the galaxy, and mostly just felt tired in a way that was not unpleasant. The kind of tired that comes after something hard is done. Rook came to stand beside her. He was large enough now that she had to reach up to rest her hand on his neck. His scales were warm under her palm, and the slow pulse, she felt there was the same one that had moved through the shell of a buried egg in a dead planet's ash. Still the same rhythm, still steady. His scales were cycling through their slow pulse, deep gold, amber, gold again. She thought about the adult bones on Draith Prime. Someone who had stayed. She thought about a 4-year-old in a mining colony learning that asking for things only made the absence louder. All those years of moving and keeping herself small and not needing too much from anyone. Rook made the low resonant sound. She felt in her chest before she heard it with her ears. She kept her hand on his neck. The stars did not care about any of it. But the warmth under her palm was real, and the steady pulse was real, and the creature beside her had opened his eyes in a cold cargo bay and looked at her first, and something in him had said this one that she had not been looking for a family. But then the best ones never announce themselves. They just stay.